My name is Ian and welcome to Planted. In this video I'm going to show you how to pot on seedlings. This is a plant called Ceratifica. These were sown about a month ago and they're now ready to be potted on. And I did that to these plants 3 days ago. And this is them starting to get established in their new pots. There's lots of tricks and tips here. I'm sure they're going to help you transform your seedlings into a viable individual plant. Let's go. Now spring is around the corner and all of us at some point have probably grown seeds in April and May with varying degrees of success. So let me show you how I do it and how you can benefit from using these techniques to ensure that your seedlings germinate and also grow to help give you more colour in your garden. So there's two things with seedlings. The first is that they don't grow, or just a few grow, and they grow very weak and very frail. They haven't had enough sunlight, and it can be very, very demoralizing. The same is true at the other end of the spectrum, and that is that you sow a packet of 40 seeds, they all grow, and now you feel duty bound to pot up every single one of those plants, even though you just want 4. So this is the first tip, and it really is quite important, and it's very, very basic, and that is that you need to be disciplined to grow what you need. If you want 5 plants, sow 10, give 5 away, and then you keep 5. But don't grow the whole pack. You don't need it. So for this project, we're going to be potting on some plants called Ceratifica. Now, it's a beautiful plant. This year I'm lucky enough, I've got some pink and I've also got some white, which you'll see later in the summer, hopefully in full flower. But just look at these flowers. This is it's called the South African foxglove. And the reason it's called that is that it looks like a foxglove and it comes from South Africa. Ceratifica triloba is its fancy pants name. Don't let that get in the way of growing this plant. First job is to get your pots filled with your growing medium, get them hydrated, and also make sure that they've had a chance to come up to temperature. If you've got cold potting mix and cold water and you put your little tender plants directly into that mix, it's a bit of a setback and it's a bit of a shock. And the reason that I've got a large propagator is that I can put my newly potted on seedlings in my propagator and let them heat up for a few days and then bring them out into my warm greenhouse. So there's a great sensitivity in growing plants to make sure that you don't shock them. The propagator is full of plants and seedlings. Let's uncover these beautiful Ceratifica seedlings. These have been in this propagator for about a month, and as you can see, they're not tall, long and lanky, which would indicate that they don't get enough sunlight. And they're also a reasonable size, making it easier for you to handle them. If you try and pot on seedlings prematurely, they're very small, very fragile, and they will potentially have an increased chance of failure. So planning your propagation is very important. Once you've removed your seedlings, make sure that you close your propagator lid. You don't want it to cool down. This is my potting mix, and this growing medium is pre-hydrated and it's also at a nice warm temperature, and it's nice if you have a tray. So this is done. I haven't got my seedlings laying around the table, and I'm also trying to fill pots. I've done that ahead of time. This here is my trusty pot of Ceratifica, and it really isn't very difficult. You have to bear a few things in mind. The first thing is that you never ever touch the stem. Even if you're very light and able to manipulate your fingers very well, just touching the sides of the stem crushes the xylem and it stops the flow of nutrients and water. So your first thing is to extract your plants from the pot, and you lay your hand on the side and kind of cup it and invert it. A little bit of a shimmy and a shake. And really, this is perfect. You want it to fall to bits. Now, it's interesting. I can feel the heat in this potting mix because it's come from the propagator. And you can see these wonderful roots. Now, we need to be very, very careful here. I like to tear it in half and then in half again. And then if a clump should collapse on me, I've still got lots of others. Now I'm going to have so many of these spare. Now once you end up with a little clump in your hand like that, you then want to tease them apart. And remember, it's important that they each have roots just like that. Now here's another top tip. These roots are very, very fragile, and holding it as carefully as you can, you don't want to damage any of these roots. So what I do is, with a plant label, you need to make a hole just about the right depth. And you can see that. 2.5 centimeters deep. And then you lay your plant in that. And you really want to get the plant in the center of the pot and at the correct height. That's it. Don't go in there with your hands and start really compacting that soil. Let's do another one. Hold the plant by the leaf. Two down. This is interesting. You can see here we've got 3 seedlings. This one germinated later, and it's very tempting to try and save that. Don't. You might be sacrificing a few of these plants, and that's just fine. So here's our full tray of seedlings. It's quite possible that these seedlings will flop down and then they'll come back upright. But I have to encourage you not to get in there and start trying to pick them up and fiddle around with them. So that's the 10 plants that I want to keep. And what I have over here is a little ragtag collection of some of the spares. Now I'm not going to discard these spares just yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put them back in the pot. And the reason for that is that I want to keep them alive in case any of these fail. I'll know within a few days if these have failed. Very important. Get some water in there. And this is where a smaller watering can is very, very helpful. You want to drown these plants. I frequently will just put my finger over the tip like that. And you get a little bit of water. And you know now that you're watering in those seedlings into the pot. That one just fell over. Don't let it worry you. It's really important that we get the roots of a plant that's just been disturbed in contact with growing medium and then water around all those roots. This next 24 hours is really important. We want humid conditions. We don't want any big fluctuations in temperature. And if we can keep these at 60 degrees, 65 degrees, maybe 70, that'd be great. You can see how gentle this watering in is. There we go. Now, having said what I just said, this one really is a little bit far over. There. That's it. These will go into the warm greenhouse at 60 degrees and we'll see how they do.